Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Tribeca Trade Group, and today is Thursday, November 10th. Risk disclaimer is going to be in front of you in just a second. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes only in this video. Please understand that everything that we're going through is for education purposes only. So yes, I just have, because sometimes I forget to do this at the end of the video, but if you are not a member of Tribeca Trade Group, please check us out here. Link is pinned to my profile page over on Twitter, and that will take you to you can click on services. You can see everything that you get. I would encourage you to check it out for a month, and please provide me feedback. I always try to provide value to members, and I think we do a really good job at catching moves and trends as I go over in every one of these end of day videos. And so let's get right into that price action. You can also like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. That helps as well. But yeah, today was a gap and go day. Let's discuss. I'll try to give, you're going to hear a lot about the CPI report. Here's a view just to kind of put things in perspective for today's CPI report. This is looking at the year over year change, and you could see that we've kind of peaked out there. The headline year over year number in terms of the highest that it got to in terms of where it is now. So yes, it is starting to fall. One of the things, I'll be, a little bit of a Debbie Downer here for just a second, but, it's really interesting how this works. And we talked about this over the weekend too, but notice what came in here. 0.4% month over month. I don't know where they got this survey of 0.6, and I still don't exactly know who sets those numbers. I guess the whatever the committee is, but remember this again, 0.6 versus 0.4. Now we're going to talk about these two numbers too, because that was a decrease, but I just find it funny when you go back to last month. Where did we come in last month? 0.4, exactly the same thing. But the expectations were lower. So again, it's all about those expectations. This number was the ex-food and energy. That was a different number. Last month, it was 0.6, right? Today, it was 0.3. And then remember, last month, it was 8.2. I'm just putting things in perspective. All right, in terms of what changed from last month. You could see this number was 7.7. So still, it is a very high number, but it is a definite, change that we're starting to see. Now, this is kind of the first derivative of what we watch. Second derivative is, okay, well, what does this do to Fed fund futures? Notice the sloping curve at this point. It was flat before, a couple weeks ago. So number one, for the next meeting, which is December 14th. A reminder that we're going to get another CPI report that comes out. I think it's on the 13th of December. So right before. So they're going to get two data points to basically decide what they're going to do. And again, it's kind of nice, in my opinion, that we won't hear. Now we're going to hear from every Fed speaker 20 times a day, but we're not going to get another Fed meeting until we've got a little bit more than a month, because today's the 10th. But yes, they're still looking to do 50 basis points. That didn't change in Fed fund futures. However, this changed a little bit. All right, so this moved down a little bit. There was a question of whether there was going to be another 50 basis points in February, and Fed fund futures were close to pricing in another 50 basis points, and it looks like right now it's in between 25 and 50. So it's a slight move, in terms of that. But then again, you look at March and you look at May. And I think this kind of topped out at 5%, how the pricing was about a week ago, after the Fed meeting. Remember, the Fed meeting was just last week. So this has come in about 10 to 15 basis points from where Fed fund futures are pricing in. Remember, again, the market tells you exactly what is being priced in. Now, it will, of course, Fed fund futures always adjust based on new information, but this is what is presently being priced in. Okay, of course, we'll be subject to change based on new information. And that could either be the Fed coming out and saying something, or that could be more, economic data that comes out, which is different than expectations, just like today was. Okay, so that's the quick view. I will give you, if you love macro, hang on, because I'm going to go over a couple other things here before we even talk about equities. I think it's very important to look at what interest rates did, right? They started to move a little bit yesterday, right? They actually were rallying a little bit yesterday afternoon with all this crypto business going on, maybe a little bit of a flight to safety move, or maybe a little bit of a hint. I don't know. Because this morning, bonds were rallying about 0.5%. Now, this is a huge move in terms of what happened in bonds today. It's up 3.8%. I mean, you can't even see something close to this in terms of another green candle. Note that this is the first time we've been talking about this downtrend and how bad price, how well price has been staying in the downtrend below the 5-period moving average for a good portion of this time. So this is a change in tone. This is the first time we're back above the 20-day moving average since August, right? And I know that there's a daily sentiment index too that got into the single digits just the other day. So that helps when you have positive, or different news, and when something is really oversold. Now, that's not the only story, right? What's the other thing that I look at in just about every one of these videos, right? I look at what the dollar is doing. Remember that we talked about yesterday that 2 days ago, a version point of control was taken out, right? As we got below the 50-day moving average, took out this and bounced a little bit. I thought we could maybe bounce a little bit more, maybe back into the 50, and then we'll see if it would get rejected. That didn't happen today. Another move down 2.3%. And again, that's a decisive break of trend. I'm highlighting the 50-day moving average because that's important. Other than this little misstep here, the price has remained above the 50-day moving average, for basically all this year. So that's a big move, and that is a big move down in the US dollar today. So again, that's so when we look at the crazy, some of these moves, which were just humongous moves, insert your own adjective in here, but the Qs were up over 7% for the day. Small caps were up 6% for the day. SPYs, diamonds, they all did pretty good too. SPYs were up 5.5%. These are just monster moves. The VIX also confirming volatility coming down 10%. Where did the VIX finish today? We're down to 23 in the VIX, right? And then we'll get into the sector moves. But, I think the number one question that I received today from Tribeca Trade Group members was, hey, do you think we'll have continuation tomorrow? And, first of all, look at where we finished the day yesterday. I think a lot of people were kind of caught off guard because of how bad things looked at the end of the day yesterday. We closed on the lows. The breadth was horrible yesterday, right? We know, of course, one day is not a trend, but things were not looking good at the end. Let's be full disclosure. Things were not looking good yesterday. So, one of the things that we've talked about in 2022 is that you really cannot stay anchored to what you thought was going to happen, or perma anything. You have to be very nimble in this market, right? Because especially when we've got these days where there's new information coming out, like the CPI report or a Fed day, right? Coming in kind of clean into those events. And again, the best thing probably was to have a couple lottos in place, because again, putting on a lot of exposure before one of these big days, that's not really smart to do either on the long side or the short side. So, I don't want to hear any of this business, about, oh, I called it today. I certainly didn't do that in yesterday's video. I even took off some trades yesterday, which is what I wanted to do all along. Unfortunately, it was a little bit into yesterday's weakness, but that's just how it is with some of these big macro events, right? They could really, and if you're on the wrong side of these things, it could really be damaging to your account. So that's fine, and so kind of going back to how today unfolded, it's not easy to chase a move that we saw today, but the number one question that I got was, wait, what do I think tomorrow? Are we gonna see some follow through? And I mean, I have to say, the dollar down, interest rates down, right? The breadth is strong as it was today, right? I don't know how you can really go against, thinking that there's going to be a reversal coming from today, but there could always be some type of unforeseen events, right? There's never 100% probability. Do I like the price action today? Sure. And I did add some trades today, but, I tend to add trades where there's setups. I don't just add because I think we're going to have continuation or vice versa, right? I basically add exposure where I see a pretty good setup. So that said, let me go through the indices really quick. We are hitting some resistance. Again, we're going to be hitting resistance every step of the way, right? We took out this upside VPOC. There's overhead supply everywhere, right? So would I be fading this? I mean, normally when we get up to an upside VPOC, I do usually like to take profits. It doesn't mean I like to fade anything, but we did take out this upside VPOC, so we'll see what we do tomorrow. And what would also not be a horrible thing is if we digest it a little bit, right? We are a little overbought here. Very amazing. Like yesterday, a little bit oversold. Today, a little bit, today overbought short term. So this market is just so whippy right now. Okay. So yeah, we're at an 80 RSI in the 1 hour. So maybe this cools in here. Even a check back to 38.90, might be a decent setup as well. There's nothing wrong with that. If that does happen. But a check back is fine. Will we collapse and go to the other, just because we're taking out some, there's a VPOC being taken out here in SPY as well. So there's usually a place, places where we pause, but not every VPOC does that. It's going to depend on the conviction in the market, right? And the volume, tomorrow. So yes, we're hitting some overhead supply, and we're going to hit that every step of the way. NASDAQ, which has been the weakest, was the strongest today. Again, a lot of short covering, probably more shorts in this space than anything else. Notice again, here's an example. We took out a VPOC. We kind of hung out here a little bit, and we actually, managed to get through it no problem. Why? Because look at the volume, right? And the conviction in today's move. Now, this is really interesting when we get to small caps. I was even thinking like, wow, small caps have shown no participation this week. They came back. I mean, again, look at the close inside value, close below the 50-day moving average. This is why this market is super tricky this year. But we're right back at it. We're right back at the 200-day moving average, slightly above. Well, it's definitely a close above the 11-1 day. And we're going to be into that 200-day moving average. And then, of course, lastly, Dow stocks, which didn't outperform today, but look at them go. Again, I'm not trying to mock anybody, but I just think it's funny because it got so much attention. Everybody about a week ago, 2 weeks ago saying, oh, look we got to the 200-day moving average. We're going to fail here, just like we did every spot. I mean, that's really bad analysis, in my opinion. You can note that, but it's really, for me, like I always kind of wait and watch and say, okay, let's see, we have to approach the 200-day moving average at some point. That doesn't mean as soon as we get there, and if we kind of come down that day, it doesn't mean that the game is over and we're going to go right back to the lows. It means we kind of have to watch and pay attention when we hit resistance. But too many of people saying, oh, that's it. We hit the 200-day moving average. That must be the end of the rally, right? Notice what we did here. We just kind of hung in here and, came in and digested a big move. And we were overbought into this, right? A little bit of a move back and back out to highs. I still think that this is a good place to be, considering that interest rates, right? Let's go back to this for a second. Interest rates are 3.8%. They're going to get over 4%, right? I still don't think it's going to be your super high growth names continue to move up. I think today was a lot of short covering in those names, but it doesn't mean that there's some opportunities, right, around around those places. So let me get to a couple. I like to always show my trades. I was lucky enough to be long some the WPM. So I was long a silver miner. That got very close to my target, $38. That was the first thing that I sold positions, in the first hour of the day. And then I said I was going to kind of look for some opportunities depending on how the first hour of the day, and opportunities and things that I like, that I have higher conviction in. IT was a home run. Nice to get a home run, right? In terms of this price action. I got into this right around in here. It actually went above here. So this is a very good company. And this one will stay on the watch list for now, even though I took this trade off today. Crowd, I had a lotto play earlier in the week. I probably could have taken this. I don't even want to see where Crowd is now. I decided to get out of it in the beginning of the day, just in case we saw some type of reversal. Royal Gold, really nice, this move in the gold miners. I got out of that one right in the beginning of the day. Look at where gold finished, by the way, right? Look at where copper had a pretty good day today too. I mean, this is pretty different, right? We're seeing copper get above the 826. So, if you look, even at some things like FCX, AA, which for some reason Thinkorswim doesn't like when I put this in here, but starting to kind of get going here a little bit, even though it didn't close on the absolute highs of the day. CEG was just a scalp trade for me. Wow, it actually closed. Holy cow, it actually got through. I took my profits right at the bottom of value for the day, but this will be a good one to watch too. Very nice move here. Dipped a little bit on earnings and a move back out to highs. IBB. So let's talk about biotech for a minute. Oh, and then AEHR. Well, the last one. But hey, look at this thing. Closed at the new highs today. So this was also a name that I positioned in, and I stayed. Oh no, sorry, I got long this morning. Sorry, I'm thinking of another name. Right, but here's my trade. Nice, and I took several targets in this today. Let's talk about biotech for a minute. Right, we've talked about healthcare before, but this is a pretty nice looking setup here. And I was on Bloomberg talking about biotech. I'll get to the XBI. Remember, IBB is market cap weighted, so the larger companies get the bigger weights. There's a VPOC that I'm targeting up here at 136.87. Notice it's above the 200-day moving average, and notice what XBI did, which is your more small, not all smaller. It's just it's equally weighted. So the smaller names get the same representation as the larger names. I think this can maybe get up to 87. Note just above the 200-day moving average. And note this has kind of been going sideways for a while. So with the move in interest rates today, this is an area that I like to be in, right? A little bit more higher beta. And that's both IBB and XBI. I like a great deal. I tried some Tesla for a day trade that didn't really work. I actually tried to short some coin into strength. Didn't work. I took it off. I got rid of my last piece of my hedge that I was holding in SQQQ. I generally hold SQQQ when the Qs are, again, that's inverse levered. So I usually hold that when the Qs are below the 20-day moving average as well as the 5-day moving average. If they reclaim it, I get out of it. Okay. LTHM and ALB, these were names that we talked about earlier. This was a weekend setup name. Very, very nice move here. LTHM also was strong. I kind of missed the move in ALB, so I jumped in LTHM back on Monday. That's fine. It was able to take a target. It didn't move as aggressive, but LTHM is a little bit easier to trade. It's not quite as wide as that one. And I did add a little bit of XBI calls right at the end of the day. CFG, I'll give you again, I'm giving you all my setups here, but this is something different, right? So this is a financial. What do I like about this thing? Right? I like the fact that it did some digestion, had earnings, hung out, around the 200-day moving average for a couple weeks, a nice move higher. So I think at the very least, again, we'll use multiple time frame analysis, go to the 1-hour chart, and I think this could get up to 43, and then we'll see what it does. 43 on the chart would be up here. Maybe we can kind of get all the way up to 47. I think that would be a good move. I do like the financials, parts of the financials in any event. All right, and then one last look at how our watch list is doing from this weekend. Again, this isn't normal, but this is, this is why we do the homework, right? Look at some of the setups. I mentioned ALB, it's up 12% from our trigger, WPA. So again, I don't go into every one of these. It's impossible, but these are the ones that, I was paying attention to as we started the week. Some AEHR, of course, Crocs also up pretty nicely. Retail had a nice day as well. Booz Allen too has been a very strong name. So guys, that's it. Have a great night. Again, one day is not a trend, but I have to say that a lot of nice things, when you look at not what just happened in equities with the very strong breadth today and momentum, but also in the dollar as well as rates. And I did add some select positions going into the end of the day. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow.